Hey everyone, I'm Jay.
And I'm Sean.
And we watched an episode
of WandaVision.
Episode 8, previously on. An aptly named episode once again, because we are going to do a little bit of a rewind and track Wanda's path to power. Who is Wanda? What is Wanda? And a whole lot more besides. So, number one, Sean noticed right off the bat that the Marvel Studios logo was done up in purple this week. So we know from last week who the purple entity here is.
Agatha Harkness.
Agatha Harkness, the witch. Not a big reveal. We knew this pretty much from before the season even started, and yet great to have that, not just confirmation, but have it be out, because now we can really start to play. And so before we even go back in time to Wanda, we go back, way back in time to Agatha. Back to Salem, 1693, where Agatha is being dragged to a stake. Is that fair to say?
It's fair to say.
By her own coven, by some other witches. So she's tied up and she is accused of
witchcraft.
Well, yes, but accused by witches. I think witchcraft itself is not the problem here. It's that she's been practicing magic above her station, beyond her years. In fact, black magic, I think.
The dark arts.
The dark arts, excuse me, Sean.
I was just supplementing you.
She has stolen knowledge that she is not supposed to have yet. And the witches are mad. This is her own coven. In fact, her own mother, who not only accuse her, they're about to kill her on the stake for it. These are pretty dire consequences.
They are.
We're not messing around with this. But despite Agatha pleading that she can be good, her mother knows, no, you can't. So I'm very interested in this, seeing Agatha's origin story, if you will, because I don't know Agatha outside of what I'm being shown on WandaVision. Agatha, so far to me, is seeming very sinister. And yet the comic books have her as sort of a tutor. Or somebody, a figure who helps her along, who helps Wanda along discover her magic and rein in the magic and harness it.
That's right.
So now, obviously the MCU has done it before, where they're kind of rewriting characters you think you know, and they have different motivations in the MCU than they did in the comic books, and that's fair game. So I am interested to learn these things about Agatha, because I'm still not sure what kind of character we're dealing with here.
Of course. Well, they're being very purposely ambiguous with her.
Mm-hmm. So at the moment that this is happening, we know this, where we left off on the previous episode, Wanda is down in the secret lair where her magic doesn't work. Agatha has the runes, she's making all of these spells, and Wanda, even though she's obviously quite powerful, has no idea about any of the rules of witchcraft. Has not even called herself a witch, I don't think, up until this point.
No.
She's got powers.
Well, she wasn't allowed, by the way.
Okay.
For legal reasons.
Oh, all right.
So that's in the past now.
Interesting. But really, she has seemed confused about her powers, seemed to not entirely control them. And yet we see how she's capable of quite a lot. But, as Agatha says, doesn't even know the fundamentals. So Agatha's motivation for being here, because we do know that this whole scenario is Wanda's creation, such an impressive creation that it attracts Agatha there, because she wants to know, what kind of entity is capable of this kind of magic, because this is a crazy amount of magic happening for miles from the epicenter of this. So Agatha really wants to know why, how, what's going on. And so Agatha is going to sort of take her back to the beginnings, walk her through the low points really of her life, make her relive a lot of trauma, because Agatha really wants to figure out what is behind Wanda's capabilities. So first we're going back to Sokovia, where Wanda is like a 10-year-old girl. Pietro, I guess, is a 10-year-old boy.
They are twins.
And yeah, they're living sort of a not fancy life with their parents while
war, living in a war zone.
Yeah, rages just outside. And apparently her dad like hawks a briefcase full of DVDs. That I don't know how they're making a living on that.
No, because also they're watching them first, so they're not even new.
They're not new. That's right. Although they seem to be a little prescient, because this would be in the 90s, and they do have copies of Malcolm in the Middle, which wouldn't have premiered yet, at least in our world. So maybe
bootlegs.
Bootlegs of future television. Yeah. Nice. All right. So they are watching the Dick Van Dyke Show when the bomb drops. So we know this is how her parents meet their end, yes. And somehow she and her brother survive. Now, Sean, you'll have to fill us in a little, or fill me in. Let's face it, it's me. We see a Stark Industries, I'm assuming, bomb drop in their living room. It seems to be a dud. It looks armed and beeping, though.
Yeah. Well, Wanda does use her powers there.
Okay, because she says no, she didn't. But it also seems like Wanda doesn't even know she has powers yet.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, because there may be many origin stories for Wanda and the Scarlet Witch, but it seems like she was born with powers.
Yeah, so this is where the MCU and the X-Men universe are starting to come together now.
Okay.
Because it was originally in the MCU that Wanda got her powers from the Mind Stone. Mm-hmm. But now that she can be a mutant, she, in the comics, mm-hmm. she had those powers. They were latent, and then they come out at puberty-ish, or when there's a traumatic event. Mm-hmm. So this would be that traumatic event where it's her first use of her powers.
Okay.
And she can change the probability. So she can make weird things either happen or not happen, such as a bomb not going off. Okay.
I wasn't even sure that this was her first time using her powers, because I think it's Pietro that we hear say, "Wanda, no." And that sort of implies that he knows what she's doing.
Okay, I didn't pick up on that, but maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's complicated, and these are very quick throwaway things. We don't always know what they add up to. We see hiding out from this bomb. She tells us they spent 2 days, her and her brother, hiding, not like just trapped in the rubble. And she's telling herself, by the end of the episode, you'll see it was all just a bad dream and none of this is real. So we see her comforting herself with notions of television right there. So it is really setting up why maybe she returns to television.
Yes, it is.
It was a big part of their childhood. It's something they enjoyed with their parents. It seems when she picks the Dick Van Dyke episode that she has them all memorized. This is what they do.
She knows exactly which one it is, absolutely.
This is how she learned her American accent.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. That's right. So next, Agatha, I guess we have to call her now, brings her to, I don't even know what to call it, a lab where she is being not held, because she tells us she's a volunteer, that this trauma with her parents and the war, she and Pietro joined an anti-freedom terrorist organization.
Hydra.
Is it Hydra? Okay.
It's Hydra.
They don't
Yeah.
say that, but I was like, is that just...
It's Hydra.
Okay. And the experiment that she volunteers for, she's exposed to Loki's staff, which I guess is holding the Mind Stone.
That's right.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
So we know that no one else has survived this encounter before. Guess what? Wanda survives it. Not just survives it, but I mean, she really interacts with the stone.
Yes, she does.
And as I guess Agatha says, the stone seems to have also awakened more powers, strengthened the powers that she had. Obviously, already existing powers, which I think is the interesting thing. But the Mind Stone really brought those to...
Absolutely.
Yes, there, thank you. Enhance is a good word. So, yeah, this is Loki's scepter.
And
His
it's
staff.
an infinity stone that is inside it.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And then again, we see her in her cell. Again, she's supposed to be a volunteer. It didn't look like...
It's not
it looked like a prison,
yeah,
to me. She's watching television again. So this is the reoccurring theme in her life, because next we go to the Avengers compound, which she refers to as the first home that she and Vision shared together. And we get to see a little bit of that old Vision who's like awkwardly trying to get close to Wanda back in the early days of their relationship, hiding in her closet, being a bit of a creeper.
No, he came through the wall. There's a difference.
From the closet.
No, from his room.
I don't know about that, Sean. There was a door there.
Well, he doesn't go through, well, he doesn't open doors. He just walks through them.
Sean. Anyways, it is, I think, very early days after Pietro's death. And she's real sad. And he, is still figuring out this human thing, I guess, and trying to provide some comfort. But she says the only comfort that she could have is in seeing him again. And of course, she's watching Malcolm in the Middle while they're having this discussion. So this is pretty on the nose, setting up WandaVision and what happens next, isn't it?
It is, you're right. There are TVs in every single scene that we see.
Yes.
Except for one.
I think it's really interesting because Vision says a really great line at the Avengers compound. He says, "What is grief if not love persevering?"
That is a great line. What a wonderful observation by a robot.
I thought so. And not inaccurate. It is a very poetic and beautiful way to see grief. I think a true one, but it's, hard to find comfort in that when you're missing the physical person. Yeah. Yes. So yes, Agatha just wants to know, how did you do this? And we know that she is grieving her parents. She's grieving her brother. She's now grieving Vision. And all she wants, the only comfort she can have, is in getting him back. So where does she go next?
She goes to get Vision's body back.
Ooh, she goes to Sword. She goes to Sword where she knows they must be holding his body. And she meets Director Hayward. Oh, that Director Hayward. Now we've known for a long time that this guy is sketchy, but he's super sketchy, I thought, in this scene.
I thought he was less sketchy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this. Yes. First of all, she wants to get Vision's body back to have a funeral. This is what she wants and needs. She's not thinking of anything else. This is what she is wanting. And Hayward, first of all, shows her Vision. Even though it would be very rare to show a loved one an autopsy, a live autopsy. This is basically what Hayward shows her, is Vision's body being disassembled. And it's brutal stuff. He's in
a lot of pieces.
Yes, he is. He's in like 6 pieces on tables. It's rough. Not a way that his grieving widow should ever have to see him. I think it's interesting, and Hayward is like, no, I can't let you take him, because it's $3 billion worth of vibranium down there. You can't just bury that in the ground. But I feel like several times he sort of hints like, well, you know, plus you're the only one who could bring him back. You have the power to bring him back. I couldn't give you a weapon just for you to bring him back to life. And I feel like he was constantly hinting and planting that seed. And we know that that's exactly what Hayward wanted, that they were trying to reanimate Vision and couldn't. They hadn't found the correct power source. He knows that Wanda can do this, and I felt like he was really, you know, he's saying, oh, well, we wouldn't want you to do that, but he's telling her she could do it and planting that seed. I thought that was pretty nefarious.
That's pretty dark.
Mm-hmm. So Wanda sort of has a bit of a breakdown, breaks through a plate of glass to go down and say goodbye, I guess. And then we see her walk out of the facility. Not quite the footage we were shown by Hayward several episodes ago, where he had clearly edited this footage to make it look like she stole the body. Now we know that this is not the case, that the Vision inside of the Hex is apparently her own creation. Not necromancy, not based on his body. This is just her power.
Yeah.
Which means Hayward still has the body. Not a good thing.
No, it's not.
So Wanda next drives in her car, which is red, by the way. I like these little touches. Good job, Marvel. Drives her car to New Jersey. Not everyone's first response, but we learned that Vision had left her the deed to a property where they could maybe grow old together. Westview, New Jersey is not looking good. I guess it's been decimated by the blip.
Yep.
We have driven through New Jersey and upstate New York and stuff, and actually, even without the blip, a lot of those towns do not look great. So Westview is improved by Wanda's magic, shall we say. But basically, she just, her grief intensifies to the point that suddenly all of the red, she kind of explodes with the glowing red power. And boom, she not only is like creating Vision from her chest, it looks like a shockwave going over the city and just painting it over for that season 1 black and white episode that we first joined them in. So we get to see exactly what happened. And Wanda's right, she keeps saying she doesn't know how it happened. She doesn't know how it happened. It doesn't seem like something she chose to do with any, real purpose. It's just, I think her grief, her emotion was just so strong that her magic maybe acted a little bit independently and followed her heart's desire. Turned that into a reality. Whew. So, she got some strong magic in there.
She does.
We know this. It's pretty crazy. So crazy that Agatha says, whoa, we thought you were a myth. We thought this didn't exist. But you are a being capable of spontaneous creation. Which, okay, that does sound pretty impressive when you put it like that.
It does.
That's just not supposed to happen. This is chaos magic. Chaos magic that Wanda seems to just be spontaneously emanating and somehow making happen over such a wide terrain and in such an intricate matter that Agatha can only conclude that Wanda is the Scarlet Witch.
Which she is!
Yay! And now we can finally actually call her by that name.
We can.
Which is kind of exciting that we have finally gotten to that place. Was it Age of Ultron the first time we met Wanda?
Yes.
So we have been waiting a while on this.
Yes, we have.
Just calling her Wanda and...
Yeah, well, that again was not allowed as long as Fox had the X-Men rights. But now,
it's nice to see her taking her rightful place.
Yeah, now she can be the full character from the comics.
Yay. Well, it does seem to her origin story in this perhaps imply that she was a mutant from birth.
Yeah.
Because she did have those powers all along. So they might be melding the MCU Wanda with the Fox Wanda.
I think they are.
And
there wasn't a Fox Wanda.
Well, I know, but you know, the idea.
Yes.
The idea that they couldn't use.
Yeah.
Which is weird that there wasn't a Fox Wanda, since there was a Fox Peter.
Yep.
But anyways.
Yep. It is weird.
Well, that's another
whole
thing.
other thing.
Mm-hmm. And then we end the episode with, now that sort of Wanda has snapped out of it a little bit, she runs back outside. Because remember, Agatha still has Wanda's kids. And in the street, she's basically got like a purple noose around their necks as she is floating up above them. So again, this seems pretty antagonistic.
It does.
And Agatha is clearly afraid of Wanda.
Absolutely.
Once she realizes who Wanda really is, she is afraid of her. Agatha is a very powerful witch herself, like a 400-year-old witch. And yet, with no training and no even awareness, Wanda is a much more powerful witch. And so, of course, Agatha should be afraid. And yet is still antagonizing her?
Or trying to protect herself with hostages.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense, at least. Like, it's it's a little bit, probably not the best way you should approach the situation, but...
She made her choice.
She made her choice, and she is sticking with it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little disappointing because last week's episode ended with Monica Rambeau opening up that trapdoor, looking down into the lair, but being interrupted by Pietro, or Fietro, as Agatha calls him, fake Pietro. And he's like, Snooper's gonna snoop. What happened to them? We don't know. We spend hardly any time with anyone else. This is Wanda and Agatha basically taking a stroll into their past life. This is really a two-hander, pretty much, this episode. There is, though, a mid-credit scene to this one as well, so stick around again. So we join Hayward outside of the Hex at his little base camp where he's told they are ready to launch, and he says it's about time or something like that. Inside the tent, he is using one of the, aircraft that he sent inside the Hex, which came out with, still crackling with that red energy from Wanda. And that is what they're using as a power source to reanimate Vision's corpse. But the being who comes online is not Vision.
Well, it's White Vision.
It's White Vision. That's right. I mean, it can't be Vision. So, yeah, who's left? When you take away, was it the Mind Stone?
Yes.
If you take that away, you take away the part that made him Vision, what is left in there? Of course he's a weapon. Is it going to be Ultron? Like, who is left inside that body?
Yeah, it's probably neither of them.
Okay.
But he definitely does not have any humanity as White Vision from the comic books.
Right, so this is a emotionless robot, not the Vision we know and love. He is emotionless as he is colorless, I guess.
Yep.
A good reminder of what he isn't. So definitely not a replacement, although it does seem like a way to keep Paul Bettany around the MCU a little longer. Good for you, Paul Bettany. You're going to pay off that house after all.
Yeah, it could also be an opportunity to reinfuse him with some humanity.
Could he be fused with the guy who's inside the Hex?
Perhaps.
Is that a thing that could happen?
I mean, Wanda can do anything. There's no rules. So if she's got a physical body to work with, I'm sure she can figure it out.
And yet, this is also a very powerful weapon.
Yeah,
and I don't think Hayward is doing this to help Wanda.
I don't think so, no.
I don't think this is a tool for grief. He's not like the grief counselor Hayward. Here's the dolly. So, what is in store for next week? Only time will tell. I did think, just learning that this vision that's inside the hex must be of Wanda's creation. Now, I suppose it's also possible that she has ripped open the multiverse and brought forth a different vision. We kind of see him being drawn almost from the magic coming out of her. So I feel like that implies that he is her creation. And if that's the case, the vision that we've seen in the last few episodes is becoming suspicious of her, a little afraid of her, is trying to leave the hex, is trying to help other people. So that's the extent of her magic, I suppose. But he has independent thought, it seems.
Yes.
That he is not just following what she would want. She wants an easy existence where nobody is questioning things. And he's not that.
Yeah, it is interesting.
If you don't want an empty shell, because you're gonna know that that's not your sweetheart. So if you're gonna do this right, you have to give him the ability to leave you. So that's good for you, Wanda, keeping things honest. I'm really wondering why Agatha is there. Is it simply curiosity? Is she there to steal her powers? Certainly the scene at the beginning of this week's episode did show us that she can steal powers from other witches, because when that coven tries to kill her, she really just absorbs their energy for herself.
She does. And they don't do well because of it.
No, they do not. So what do you think? What is up with Agatha?
Why is Agatha there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she came to check it out. Mm-hmm. But maybe her end game is to try and take Wanda's powers. And maybe she's realizing she's in over her head.
Yes. And do you think that there's any way that we can turn this Agatha into an ally at all?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think there is
That's
still that opportunity.
Possible.
Yeah, I mean, we don't hold grudges in the MCU, it seems, where people will fight amongst each other.
I did think that when we see the Stark bomb, and then, later, very soon, we see her at the Avengers compound, and it's like, well, we remember she's joined Hydra because she hated it so much, and now she's... Yeah. So you're right. There is a lot of forgiveness, I guess.
Yeah, and when you've got another threat that maybe they have to team up against White Vision, and maybe they can even work together to turn them onto their side.
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay. So I was talking about, who is left inside of Vision's body. Like what's the inner workings there without the Mind Stone, this is not going to be the Vision we know. So what is left in there? And is Hayward, I guess, the next question, is Hayward just Hayward? Is he just the director of S.W.O.R.D.? Is it possible that he is Ultron?
I guess it's possible.
Because I've heard that Ultron has taken the form of a human before.
Ultron is one of those things in the comic books where you never really get rid of him.
Okay.
There's just so many he makes copies of himself that then just resurface because he's an AI, so he can just go and hide wherever,
right, and
then come back. So it's possible. That would be interesting if that's where they went with it.
Okay, keep your eye on Hayward.
Yeah, I guess
no matter who he is, keep your eye on Hayward. Yeah. He's a problem. He is a problem because he's not just a S.W.O.R.D. director. We saw, was it last week the last several weeks really, there has been a division in S.W.O.R.D. where Hayward and his camp are going down one path and Monica Rambeau sort of leading her own faction down another. So there is a split there where they think he's kind of gone off the rails. He is overstepping his powers. And he clearly has something in mind. He's got an end game. He's got his own agenda. And I don't think we fully know what that is yet.
No, we don't. That's very true. But I guess we're going to find out.
I guess we are. But you know what? I'm not even fully confident that we will find it all out. I am finding, I'm like, next week is the last episode, guys. Next week is number 9, and then that's it. Guess what? They're not going to wrap everything up for us.
They never do.
I think exactly what we need to remember is that this is really the opening gambit to Phase 4. Where you've been talking about Nightmare and Mephisto, and those are all possibilities. I don't think we're really going to see any of those people pop up by next week. I think we are hinting towards those things. Of course, they are setting up a big baddie, but are they going to tip their hat this early in the phase? I doubt it. We might get a little wink in a post-credit scene, as is their sort of thing, but I doubt we're going to get the big reveal. I doubt we're going to name that exact threat. So I feel like we all need to temper our expectations a little bit. We've gone wild with all of these theories, and that's a lot of fun, but this is just the very first item in a really big, meaty Phase 4 for Marvel. So they're not going to give it all away in the very first one. But I still think that there's a lot that this series probably needs to address. Like, what's up with Dottie? They set her up in those first black and white episodes as a major player. They failed to identify her when like Jimmy Woo and Darcy Lewis were looking at the identity of the real people. They never identified her. We kind of flashed on her very briefly last week. It feels like she is somebody. But I've been wrong before. I also thought the delivery guy seemed really suspicious. But this week, when we saw Wanda arriving in Westview, we saw him walking around the village. So I guess maybe he was just a regular person who seems a little shady. I'm still going to say, sorry, delivery guy. But yeah, I think that there's still lots of stuff to figure out, even within this little bubble here. Like Agatha's glowing book from last week. We didn't touch on that in this episode, even though we spent a lot of time with Agatha. When we first went down to her lair, the camera lingers on what clearly looks like a magical spell book, an old book that was glowing yellow, not purple. It was yellow. So I feel like Agatha has stolen this book. Who from? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I thought maybe we would find out this episode, and we didn't. But I'm wondering if it maybe belongs to the Ancient One. Because we know WandaVision ties into Doctor Strange. What do you think, Sean?
That's a good theory. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to find that out next week.
They just want to bug us. I think another thing that I have been wondering this whole time, and I can't believe we never went back to, was when we met Jimmy Woo, he was searching for a missing person. That was his job. He had a witness protection person go missing. And they have never named that person, even though we saw him trying to identify everyone. He's never said, hey, there's our guy. That's the person I was looking for. So who is this person? It seemed like they were very important in that episode, and yet we've never revisited it. So who is this? A character we know? Is someone walking? Is it Pietro?
Well, it wouldn't be Pietro.
Why not?
Because he's dead.
Well, no, I don't mean real Pietro. I mean the Pietro in...
Who's not Pietro?
Right. Pietro.
Okay.
Because Agatha says that she's been controlling him, but she does not say that she created him. In fact, we still don't know where he came from.
No, we don't.
We obviously know it's not MCU Pietro. But we don't know that it's Fox Pietro. It has that same face, but that doesn't mean anything.
It means something.
Well, okay. It means something. But we don't know what. So where did this guy come from? Because Wanda didn't make him. Agatha was controlling him. But who is he?
Yeah, it's a good question.
It is a good question.
One of many.
Yes. And what is up with Agatha's bunny? I know, like, witches often, I know this from Harry Potter, they have, like, magical animals. And then I know you said that he was probably named after her son. But the bunny is always there. It feels like, from episode 1, the bunny has been there. They're really calling attention to this bunny. And in this episode, the bunny, like, eats a bird. So I feel like there's something up with this bunny. But I don't know what.
No.
I do not know what. Why is everything just like, I still don't know?
I don't think you're going to be satisfied.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm tempering my expectations. I know they can't wrap it all up. This is an open-ended thing. And this show is leading into movies that are still like Spider-Man December, Doctor Strange next March. So this is still pretty far out for us. We're just rolling. We have to know that they're taking it easy and they want to tease us. That is the whole point of this series, is to tease us. It is to tease all of these characters, all of these possibilities. They're dropping hints, they're dropping Easter eggs. But they're not going to tell us everything. They were never going to show their whole hand.
No, they weren't. Like a magician.
Oh, boy. Whew. So, did you like this episode?
I did. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was interesting just to see some of those past snippets and tie them together, especially with the sitcom-y elements. I thought that was a nice touch.
To see where that really, the origins, why it manifested in this way.
Yeah, and then we'll set up a fight apparently with White Vision.
Yeah.
And see where that goes.
That could be dangerous.
And yeah, we're probably not getting a lot more than that.
Well, it will be interesting to see where, if there is a Wanda versus White Vision, where does Agatha come down in that? Does she just leave? Or is she on a side? Pietro, is he going to stick around for that? Will the kids contribute? Will Monica Rambeau's photon come online? Will we see her break out the powers? Because she's apparently still in there in the Hex, right?
Yep.
And so is Hex Vision.
Yep.
We didn't see him this episode.
Nope.
Well, only in flashbacks.
But that wasn't him, yeah.
Yeah, well, we saw him in
we saw him be created, yes.
And we saw him from the black and white episode. Anyways, we saw him but not present him. So we have not checked in with him. We don't know. He was with Darcy last time we saw him. He seems to have some of his powers somehow. But that's got to be a drain on Wanda's powers. So can he even contribute if there is a fight? Are we going to see Vision versus Vision? Oh boy.
Yep.
It's going to be fancy. This show's expensive. They put a lot of money into this.
They did.
And I think that money's going to really show next week. Because you're right, there's a big fight coming down. I don't think we're going to see all the big baddies, except maybe in a post-credit scene. So we will be watching for that. I'm going to be so excited to see how this concludes. And probably just really frustrated. I hate cliffhangers. They annoyed me as a kid in sitcoms and they annoy me now. I'm not good with that. I'm not a patient person. I hate waiting. I want to know everything right now.
Well, too bad.
So this is not good for me.
No.
So the last episode, number 9, airs next week on March 5th, and then we'll have 1 week off before
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier
starts up. Yeah. So not a lot of time off. We'll have 1 week to digest and to, make peace with what we've just seen. And then we're starting up another series.
Yes.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
going to be a change of pace.
Yes, it really will. Not the same kind of thing at all.
No.
I'm interested to see what it is, though. It seems a little more regular MCU kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm more willing to give it a chance after seeing what they did with WandaVision.
Well, that's something.
It's something. No promises. And then the next one, Loki, June 11th. So bang, bang, bang. We're taking this.
Yep.
Ms. Marvel is filming as we speak. She-Hulk will start filming really soon, and then what's the Oscar Isaac one? Moon Knight, thank you. Will begin shortly after that. So they are keeping these things going at an alarming rate. Kevin Feige this week was, giving all kinds of exciting Marvel news, and he did say that you can't rule out season 2. They do expect to have multiple seasons of some of these shows, but nothing confirmed for WandaVision, and that's a lot harder because we have to see how it works out in Doctor Strange, because these do tie into movies. So no word yet on WandaVision's fate, but lots more exciting stuff in the works. And he did tell us that even characters from old MCU shows, like the stuff that was on Netflix and like Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, none of those characters are out of play.
Well, that just makes sense.
Marvel is keeping them all on the back burner. So you could see even some of your favorite, even though those ones didn't have anything to do with the MCU, they could come back. So obviously, Disney Plus has not released the numbers for WandaVision, but we know that they are great. And this has really seemed to have emboldened them. They're really excited about the future of creating series. Series that seem to have a 6-hour sweet spot. This one was broken down into 9 episodes, so no, next week's is not going to be a 2-hour power episode. We have a lot of work to get done next week, guys.
Yes. And
boy.
You're still going to be disappointed.
Okay. Well, on that note, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Bye.